It's episode 524 of the Locked On Texas Rangers podcast. On today's episode, I'm going to be ranking the Rangers prospects from number 30 all the way to number 26. This is going to be the weekly installment leading up all the way till hopefully spring training. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On the Texas Rangers. I'm your host, Brice Paterik, here today to rank the Rangers' top 30 prospects according to me, myself, and and just me. Thank you guys so much for listening to Locked On Rangers and making it your first listen of the day. If you're not already, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Brice Paterik, follow the show at Locked On Rangers, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever the heck you get your podcast, but specifically on YouTube would be super nice. We're going to try and hit 1,000 by spring training. It's a bold thing to try for because I don't think the Rangers are going to make another $500 million worth of signings and boost those numbers way up. But, we'll get there eventually. But this is one of my favorite series to do, and I talked a little bit last week on Monday's episode. I'm making a whole playlist for these episodes on YouTube, so you can go check those out if you just want to look at the Rangers prospect rankings and yell at me about how dumb my rankings are or whatever. But I talked about what I'm going to use to rank these guys, where the state of the farm is compared to where it was last year, why I'm doing 30 as opposed to what I did 20 last year. Obviously, the farm is much better, and I feel like more of these guys deserve to be ranked. Now, we're going to start with a guy number 30, and I feel pretty good about this guy. Didn't have, the best start to his official minor league career, but he's a guy with a lot of potential, and I couldn't leave him off. I know some other places left him off this year, but this is Bayron Lora, 19-year-old corner outfielder, signed in on one of the July. Well, I guess he was not really a July 2nd signing, but he signed in I believe September of August 25th of 2019. He is a right-handed thrower and also bats right-handed, listed at 6'5", 242 pounds. This is where some of the other places rank him. Last year I had him at number 12. MLB Pipeline does not have him on their list this year. Neither does Baseball America or Baseball Prospectus. They're not on their top 10. Basically, I'm just going to be going through the top 10 of BA and BP. Actually, the top 12 of BP because they have another two. Also, Pipeline, their rankings are as of last year, and I'm also be using Jamie Newberg's midseason rankings last year because he had 72, and so everyone's going to be on there at some point. If I'm ranking 30, I don't think there's going to be anybody on here that isn't on his rankings that I've found so far. Now, how to get here? Like I said, he was a $3.9 million July 2nd signing. Not really July 2nd, but whatever. He's of that group. He spent this year at the Rangers' second tier Dominican Summer League, the rookie league. In this year, his first official minor league season, he had played in 47 games, had a 218 batting average, 413 on base percentage, and a 401 slugging percentage with 6 home runs, 9 doubles, 48 walks to 73 strikeouts. His major league ETA is about 2025. It's going to be a while before he gets there. But he was signed for a whole bunch of money. He had the best raw power of anybody in that international signing class. The Rangers had to trade some guys to free up some international cap space. I believe they acquired, it was Nate Jones, who was an injured pitcher from the White Sox, assuming $2.5 million salary in obligations while obtaining $1 million in bonus pool cash. So, they could make that $3.9 million signing. This is a guy who's got a whole lot of power. There are some concerns about him initially they thought maybe he could play some center field. That's looking like that's not really going to be an option, seeing as he's 6'5" and 242 pounds. As a 19-year-old, he's already put on quite a bit of weight, and some of the concerns are that he can only hit for power. But I really liked what I saw in terms of his numbers and some of the things that I was reading about his approach. Having a 413 on base percentage in your first minor league season as a teenager is great. I know the league wasn't exactly super difficult for him because he is 19 years old, but I can't not include this guy on my list. He was really highly ranked up there. Last year he was, I believe, 14th. 14th on MLB Pipeline's top Rangers prospects. And I don't think having an 800 greater than 800 OPS is something that should drop you off of a top 30 list. He's a guy who I really like. I think the Rangers really like him too. Obviously, there's a long way to go. There's still some swing and miss to his profile. The 218 batting average isn't great, but again, it's 47 games, not a huge sample size. I would have liked to have seen more from him. I'm looking forward to. I think he's going to probably be stateside next year. I would have to think that they try him stateside next year. He's going to be, let's see. Actually, no, he's still going to be 19 years old for the remainder of the season. He turns 20 at the end of September this year. So he's still going to be a teenager. So he's actually 18 putting up all those numbers. So yeah, a greater than 800 OPS in your first minor league season as an 18-year-old. I don't think that should drop you that far off of this list. So I'm excited. I'm high on him. Obviously, there's a lot of concerns. There's a lot of mystery. That's going to be kind of a continuous theme for these guys that are in this group of 5. They're guys who could eventually make their way up pretty high on this list, but for right now, there's a whole bunch of questions on them, but the upside is really there, and so I can't put them too high on this list just yet. I don't feel great about them being that high, but these guys have a lot of potential, and I think that merits being on the list. So that is the first one on this list. Number 29. We have Cameron Cauley. He is an 18-year-old shortstop, also played a little bit of second base and third base in his first minor league season. He throws right-handed. He bats right-handed, listed at 5'10", 170 pounds, so kind of a smaller guy. Other rankings, I did not have him last year because obviously he was drafted this year. Well, I'll get to that in a second. But Pipeline has him at 16. BA and BP do not have him ranked, and The Athletic had him at 40. At the midseason point last year. How did he get here? He was the 3rd round pick of the Rangers in this most recent draft in 2021. 73rd overall, signed for a $1 million bonus, which was over slot. The Rangers felt really good about this kid. Not any loud tools, but a lot of makeup, and they feel really good about this guy. His MLB ETA it's probably around 2025. He played in Rookie League this year in 24 games, put up a slash line of 255, 311, 383. Nothing too crazy, but again, he's an 18-year-old. It's his first minor league season at all. So, again, that's fine, solid. No home runs, but 4 triples, 4 doubles, 8 walks to 31 strikeouts. This is a guy who it feels kind of a little bit lazy to call any like diminutive white middle infielder a guy with, Dustin Pedroia energy, but he kind of has that. He's listed as a shortstop for now. He might end up moving to second base. None of the tools really stand out that much. He is very fast, though. He does have a plus run tool, according to MLB Pipeline. His hit tool is graded at a 55, according to them. Not a whole lot of power there. Should be a decent fielder. Should probably stick at shortstop. I believe the Rangers feel pretty good about him sticking at shortstop. He's definitely not going to get too big to play shortstop. That's not going to be a problem. But again, there's not a whole lot you can draw from these numbers in 24 games. He was drafted out of Barbers Hill High School, which is just outside of Houston. He won them I believe their first ever state title. He was a Texas Tech signing, and he passed up that offer to go sign for $1 million to go play for the Texas Rangers, which, if someone offered me $1 million instead of going to Texas Tech, I probably would have taken that too. So don't blame him there. A good signing. The Rangers obviously felt good about him to draft him in the 3rd round and then pay him over slot bonus. Granted, they had a little bit more money because of what happened with their 2nd round pick, Aaron Zavala. But we'll get to him. I'll give you a spoiler. He's not in this part of the Rangers' top 30 draft picks or prospects, according to me. But I like this kid. He's got some moxie. Don't know a whole bunch about him yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. But I'm going to go into the number 28 prospect, which is a guy who there's not a whole lot on. But first, I want to tell you something that I do know a whole lot about. It's Built Bar. It's the new year, which means New Year's resolutions. And if yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure Built Bar is a part of your resolutions. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, but you know what? Some of them taste better than candy bars. They're absolutely delicious. They make you want to stick to your resolution because they taste so dang good. They are fantastic, and they're fantastic for you. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar that has like 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. That's not just 1 dozen. That's multiple dozens. That's a lot. That's too much. Even if you're not a huge fan of working out, you can still eat something healthy and feel good about it. Those are Built Bars. They are fantastic. Listeners can go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off at built.com. Now, let's take a look at the next guy on this list. A huge question mark. A guy who was acquired in trade. Another pitcher. There's quite a few pitchers on this list. Actually, and this particular group of 5, there's only 2 of them. But they're 2 guys that I really believe in. This guy is Dane Acker, number 28 on my list. He is a 22-year-old right-handed pitcher who bats and throws right-handed. He is listed at 6'2", 189 pounds. Last year I did not have him ranked because he was not a member of the Rangers. I think when I did my rankings, maybe he had just gotten here in the thing that made him get here. He is not ranked on MLB Pipeline, on Baseball America, Baseball Prospectus. He is on the Athletics list very high up at number 17. Yeah, Jamie Newberg feels really good about this guy. And, he had a pretty solid, very short season, though. He was acquired in the Elvis Andrus trade. He was the kind of throw-in at the end of the deal along with Jonah Heim and K. Chris Davis. Yeah, he's back to being K. Chris because of what he did here. And, it's a shame that his career is probably going to end like that, but it's fine if the Rangers get a guy who is really solid. I mean, Jonah Heim's going to be a really solid backup catcher for quite a few years. And if they get another guy who might be a middle-of-the-rotation guy, if things break really well, I don't know. There's a whole lot of questions about him, but he was a 4th-round pick out of Oklahoma. He played in Down East last year. He only pitched in 2 starts, 6.1 innings, 2.84 ERA, 11 strikeouts, and 1 walk, no home runs, and a 0.789 WHIP. His MLB ETA, it's really hard to call because I'd say at this point, late 2024, maybe early 2025. But he was born in College Station, so he was a Texas kid. There's quite a few Texas kids in this group. He went to Rice, then he went to San Jacinto North Campus College in Houston. Then he finally finished up his college career in OU, where he was drafted in the 4th round by Oakland. And the Rangers ended up getting him in the trade. They really liked what they saw from him, apparently, and couldn't get him in the draft, so they got him in a trade. He hit 97 miles per hour with his fastball in the spring, so that really turns some heads, listed at 6'2", so not like the traditional 6'5" kind of workhorse, but 6'2" and 189 is a pretty solid height and weight for a guy who's 22 years old. The Rangers wanted to take it slow with him, and he really let it rip in his very few amount of starts. I believe he went 4 1/3 innings in his first start and then 3 innings in his last one. He was pulled from that one with elbow discomfort, and he had Tommy John surgery, which ended his season. He'll come back probably around the middle of this year in some kind of limited capacity. Again, limited capacity didn't help him all that much this year, so maybe it won't help him that much next year. But he's already knocked out the Tommy John, which you kind of hate to say that it just happens with minor league guys these days. It's just you're gonna get Tommy John surgery at some point if you're a pitcher in this day and age. This is just kind of how it goes. His last year in Oklahoma, I'll give you some of those stats, which are a little bit wider of a sample size, but he started 4 games. He had a 3.51 ERA, 25 2/3 innings, struck out 28 and walked 5, had a 0.779 WHIP, which is pretty solid. 5.3 hits per 9 innings, 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, nearly 10 strikeouts per 9, and under 2 walks per 9. Those are some really solid numbers. Don't know a whole lot about his pitching repertoire because, again, he's only pitched in 6.1 minor league innings. But anybody who touches 97 has that kind of build, and obviously the Rangers think very highly of him. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I'm anxious to see what he does when he gets back this year, how the Rangers handle him. But a guy who's definitely got some serious potential and a whole lot of question marks, which is fun. Like, not question marks in a bad way, but like, oh, this guy hits 97 and then we're not going to see him for a year. I'm hoping, most guys come back after Tommy John surgery if they're kind of lower velocity. Sometimes they will have even higher velocity. Maybe that will happen for him. He can go touch 98. That would be really exciting to see what he can do. But again, not a whole lot of information on this guy, but I was really surprised by Jamie Newberg having him this high on his list, especially at the midpoint of last year, because he had already had his Tommy John surgery. So there was exactly this much information on him. But I know he has some really great relationships with the Rangers front office, and if he's ranking him that high, that means that the Rangers feel really good about this guy. I didn't feel good enough to put him at 17 like Jamie Newberg did, but obviously there's something there if he's putting him that high. Jamie knows this system in and out, and so that was a big red flag in a good way. I don't know, a white flag, a green flag, whatever kind of good colored flag there was to say that Dane Acker has got something there. There wasn't a whole lot to be seen, but look out for him when he comes back, because that is somebody who is worth keeping an eye on and worth being ranked at number 28. You know, the Rangers are making a solid bet on him, and Jamie Newberg's making a solid bet on him. But you know where you want to go if you want to bet on sports? You go to betonline.ag. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue to march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action in 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website. To sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. If you want to bet on Alabama to win a national championship in the, I guess, couple hours that this podcast will be out, in between that and the championship being, happening, I think you can do that. If you want to bet that I'll be sad at the end of this national championship game and bet on Georgia, you can also do that. But they've got football, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino game, so don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available in 2022. Just use our promo code to get started. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, let's take a look at this next guy. We have two more left on today's list. This guy at 27, he is another pitcher. He is not a right-hander, he is a left-hander. I think one of the very few that I've got on my list. I don't think there's a whole lot of lefties on this list this year. Actually, there's three. So this is the first of the three lefties. This is Cody Bradford. He is a 23-year-old, a left-handed pitcher, bats and throws left-handed, listed at 6'4", 197 pounds. Last year, he was not ranked in my rankings. He is 25th in MLB Pipeline. He is not in the top 10 of BP or BA, and The Athletic had him at 29 in their rankings. How to get here? He was in the 2019 draft in the 6th round, selected 175th overall, and signed to an overslot bonus of $700K. He pitched in Double-A this year. That was the highest level that he pitched at. And that level, he had 7 starts, 34 and 2/3 innings, a 3.89 ERA, 41 strikeouts, just 4 walks, 1 home run, and a 1.30 WHIP. His MLB ETA is probably around 2023, and he is a guy who I really like. This was his first minor league season because he had thoracic outlet syndrome surgery. In his final year at Baylor, had a really solid next to last year at Baylor. In 2018 as a 20-year-old, he was nails. 14 starts, a 2.51 ERA, 96 and 2/3 innings in, like I said, 14 starts. Only allowed 3 home runs, 26 walks to 87 strikeouts. Not a huge strikeout guy in that season, but he showed some strikeout potential in some of the years following that. In 2019, he only pitched in 3 starts and had 11 strikeouts per 9. But again, that was cut short because he had that surgery. That's why I believe he fell all the way to the 6th round, but the Rangers signed him over slot because they really, really liked him with that $700K bonus. And his best pitch is a changeup. He is a 6th rounder out of Baylor. I don't know if I said that yet, but he is also an Aledo native, so he is a Texan through and through, obviously familiar with the area. He is basically the textbook example of a crafty lefty. His best pitch is his changeup, which MLB Pipeline has as a plus pitch. He's also got two breaking pitches, a slider and a curveball. He's a guy who is pretty tall. Like I said, 6'4", 197 pounds. A tall, lanky lefty. He's got some pretty good deception. Being 6'4" allows him to have a pretty long stride, and also to kind of help his delivery and with some of that ambiguity and make his fastball look a little bit faster than it is, because it's only sitting at 88 to 91. It touches 93, but it's got such good movement that it plays up, it plays faster than it is, and that's what happens when you're 6'4" and you're a lefty. He's got some pretty good movement on it. That curveball and slider, they can both be hopefully average pitches in the future. That's kind of the potential that they show. This was his first minor league season, and he did very well. He did everything the Rangers could have asked for him. I really, really liked what I saw from him this year. He did enough to get promoted. He had a pretty solid year, not anything like super crazy in Hickory, but again, he pitched in 61 2/3 innings there in 13 starts. That's where he spent most of his season. He had a 4.23 ERA, so not quite as impressive as what he did in AA, but his strikeouts per nine were fantastic at that level. 87 strikeouts in just under 62 innings. Loved seeing that, but the walks were a little bit more of a problem there, and so were the home runs. He had 9 home runs that he gave up in nearly 62 innings in Hickory, and he also had 17 walks, which is a much, much higher rate on both of those things than he had when he moved all the way up to Frisco. But again, opposing hitters only hit 230 off of him in the lower level and 293 batting average against him once he got up to AA. So it's kind of weird results. I wonder if the numbers would have about averaged out if he had a few more starts in AA. I think that's probably where he's going to start the season. He's still got a little bit more ways to go, but his ceiling is kind of a back end of the rotation guy. I feel like I think his ceiling is probably mid rotation, but his floor is probably back end of the rotation, maybe an up and down guy. But up and down guy seems kind of unlikely, especially given how well he's breezed through at such high levels in his first minor league season. They probably really liked what they saw from him in 2020. I don't know how much he was pitching and what levels he was pitching at, because again, there was no minor league season in 2020, so the numbers aren't there. But the Rangers must have really liked what they saw from him to put him in Hickory in his first minor league season, even though he is a little bit older for a first-time minor leaguer. He's 23. But again, that's a pretty good year. I bet he starts the season in Frisco. He'll probably end the season in AAA. But I liked what I saw from him this year. There wasn't all that much for him to do that he didn't do. 96 1/3 innings in his first minor league season after basically having almost 2 years off of like real pitching. That's great. That's encouraging. And I know the Rangers love that, and they must have felt really confident in him to let him go those 96 1/3 innings. So, 27, Cody Bradford. Feel pretty good about this guy. And the last guy on the list for today is another outfielder, a guy who is kind of an older model in terms of what the Rangers used to love and have not loved as much in recent years. A huge change in their draft philosophy. This guy is Bubba Thompson. He is a 23-year-old center fielder. He's probably going to move over to left, could play a little bit of right. His arm isn't quite that big for right field, but he's a guy with a whole bunch of potential. This is probably the last first-round pick that they're going to have in several years. It has been the last first-round pick in several years that they'll have that fits that, SEC area, toolsy outfielder with, lots of speed and power, but limited baseball skills. He bats right-handed. He throws right-handed. He's listed at 6'2", 197 pounds. Last year, I had him at 16 in my rankings. MLB Pipeline has him at 26. He's not in the top 10 at BP or BA. He is 16th in the midseason rankings at The Athletic last year. How did he get here? He was a 2017 first-round pick by the Rangers, 26th overall, signed for a $2.1 million bonus, which I believe was around slot value. He was signed out of Mobile High School in Alabama. He also signed with the University of Alabama to play baseball only, though there was some thought about him being a walk-on at quarterback because he threw for 40-plus touchdowns in his senior year as a quarterback in Mobile. But he thought baseball is his future because the Rangers offered him $2.1 million to go and try and play baseball, which, it's a pretty good deal. I mean, go try and play baseball and maybe also try and walk on at quarterback, which at the time there were like 3 NFL quarterbacks at Alabama. So if he was going to try and walk on, his chances were probably pretty darn limited at that point. But he finished the season at AA in 2021. He played 104 games with a 275, 325, and 483 triple slash line. He had 16 home runs, 9 triples, and 23 doubles. Now, he walked 29 times as opposed to his 121 strikeouts, which is, a bit of a red flag, quite a bit of a red flag, and stole 25 bases. His MLB ETA, according to me, is probably around 2023. I think Pipeline has his ETA at this year, which I think would be a bit of a stretch. Now, he's not going to hit the highs that the Rangers projected him to probably hit when they drafted him in the first round almost, 5 years ago? Let's say it's 4.5-ish, but, 5 years ago on paper. But this is the exact type of guy the Rangers tried to pick over and over and over and over again and kept missing on. And that decided to change their draft strategy from let's just go get some guy who doesn't know how to play baseball super well, but could be really stinking good, and go find some guy who's already really stinking good at baseball, who might have less of a high ceiling, but is more likely to be a regular MLB contributor than some of the toolsy outfielders. But there's a reason that they picked these guys. I mean, a lot of them didn't, actually, most of them, almost all of them didn't work out. Bubba Thompson is probably going to have the best chance to work out. Lewis Brinson, I believe, was probably the best one of that group, the highest ceiling of those guys. But again, he had the same strikeout problems, the same problems with pitch recognition. And, Bubba Thompson's numbers don't look super impressive. That high strikeout rate isn't super encouraging, and an on base of only 325 isn't super encouraging. But there were a lot of big steps for Bubba Thompson this year. I know he took a huge step down in my rankings from where he was last year, from 16 all the way to 26. That's a 10-spot drop-off. But the reason is more because everyone else in the farm system got a whole lot better. There was a whole lot more talent, put into this system than where they were last year. And so it's more about everybody else than it is about Bubba, because I really liked what I saw from Bubba Thompson in AA this year. He's had some problems with recognizing spin, recognizing, changeup and counts, and just a general discipline at the plate and having a more focused plan at the plate. And he made some really big strides this year. I think he got much better at his pitch recognition. He wasn't swinging out of his shoes for a lot of pitches in the dirt like he had been in years previous. He showed a lot more of that raw power that he hadn't showed as much of in previous years. 16 home runs and 9 triples. Those were pretty impressive numbers. And he also added in 23 doubles. That's, I believe, 48 extra base hits in 104 games. That is a really solid rate to do that. Also stole 25 bases. His reads are getting better in center field. He's not always, he wasn't the most polished center fielder, but again, he's got such ridiculous speed and athleticism that he can make up for those mistakes by being super, super fast. And he's started to make a lot better reads and also use his skills as a naturally very gifted athlete to make those reads pay off a lot more. So if you have speed and you don't take super great routes, you can be about an average fielder. But if you have great speed and you take much better routes, that's when you start to be an elite fielder. Delino DeShields is a prime example of that. Delino's a little bit faster than Bubba, but a little bit smaller. And, Bubba's been playing the outfield for a lot longer because Delino was playing second base for quite a while. As we saw when Delino first came up, it was like, okay, this guy you got to stick him left. I don't care that he is faster than all heck. It doesn't matter because he makes such bad reads. But eventually, Delino ended up being, almost Gold Glove level center fielder. His routes got so much better. His jumps, he's able to make use of that speed. He didn't have a huge arm. I think Bubba's got a little bit bigger of an arm than Delino DeShields Jr. But we've seen those guys make improvements, and we've seen Bubba make big strides forward. This is a great year for him. I think he might start the year in AAA next year. He might start it in AA. And then see how well he does in AA, and if he makes a bigger stride next year and can get bumped up to AAA. But next year is going to be a really big year for him. Building off this year is going to be huge for him. I really liked what I saw from him this year, and I couldn't have him any lower on my list, a guy who is 23 years old who plays center field. And, if everything breaks right for him, I think he could be an average starting center fielder in Major League Baseball for quite a while. His more likely scenario is that he's, a fourth outfielder, not a guy who starts every day, but is a very helpful big league contributor who can come in and be a defensive replacement, can also be a pinch hitting. Maybe this guy can, swing into one and hit a home run in a situation where we need it, or can play some significant innings if there is an injury. This is a guy who I like, who I think he's going to be a big leaguer. At some point, he's going to be a big leaguer. But the high, lofty ceilings the Rangers dreamed for him in 2017, those are a little bit foregone unless he makes some huge stride, which is technically possible. I don't think it's likely, but there's a reason why you wait on these guys so long, because if they hit even in their like top quarter of their possible outcome from when they're drafted, the top, 75 to 100 percentile, he's not going to hit the 100 percentile. He's probably not even going to hit 75. But if he's about, 60th percentile, that's a pretty good major leaguer for quite a long time. There's a reason they waited so long on this guy. We're so patient for him and with him and believed in him to this level. But I liked him. Great year for him last year. Really excited to see what he can do. So let's list off the guys as we have them. At 26, we got Bubba Thompson. 27, lefty Cody Bradford. 28, righty with huge question marks, Dane Acker. At 29, we have the 18-year-old shortstop Cameron Cauley. And at 30, we have Bayron Lora, the 19-year-old outfielder. So that's where we are with this list for now. I'll be back next week on Monday to do numbers, whatever the math is, 25 or 21 to 25, I believe. I don't know. Don't make me do math in reverse. It's hard enough counting just normally for me. I'm not a math guy anymore, not since the accident. But feel really good about this system. Feel really good about these picks. If you have some blatant disagreement with me having these guys so high, leave a comment. Follow me on Twitter at Brice Paterik. Let me know there, or subscribe on YouTube and let me know in those comments. But also, just subscribe if you're going to leave something mean to say, so you kind of balance it out. It's just kind of a, yin and yang, give and take kind of thing. You got to have that balance there. But thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Locked On Rangers. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.